thank you everyone so much for joining today's Partnering Power Tools Advanced webinar for Bio 101 Partnering at the 2019 Bio International Convention. I am your host, Willie Reeves, Director of Partnering Products and Services, and today our session is going to really focus on a couple of particular things. We're going to have a jam-packed time today. Quick recap of some best practices in using the Bio 101 partnering system for convention. We'll go through a couple of recent updates and pieces of information related to the system. And then the meat of today's presentation will be on the Partnering Power Toolkit. So tips and tricks and commonly overlooked features that will help you maximize your partnering experience. Also, as a quick housekeeping item, the recording to this webinar as well as the slides will be distributed via email a few days following the webinar. So if you are listening or if you have registered for the webinar, you will receive a link to the recording from Bio. The recording will also be available on the Bio YouTube channel as well as on the partnering page at convention.bio.org. So you'll certainly be able to review this information or share it with colleagues after it is ended. We will also have a brief question and answer period, so if you would like to submit a question, please hold those toward the end of the presentation, and you can use the questions panel in your GoToWebinar application to submit questions, and I'll be happy to take those and follow up even afterwards if needed. All right, so let's go ahead with the review of the best practices in partnering for Bio 2019. Most likely, if you're listening on this advanced webinar, you're already doing all of these things, but just as a quick reminder, first, you're going to want to create and update your company's profile. We'll look more at that later. Second, be sure to update and keep updating regularly your partnering calendar availability. Next is make sure that you're going into the system regularly, searching for your potential partners and actively sending tailored, customized meeting requests. Fourth is manage your message center, so again, going in regularly. And then fifth is really a step that the system sort of takes for you. Bio will begin scheduling accepted meeting requests that have mutual availability beginning on May 13th. So remember that scheduling is going to begin during the evening, Eastern Daylight Time of May 13th. So you will start to see accepted meetings turn into scheduled meetings at that time. When you wake up on the 14th, those will appear for you. Please don't panic if it's 9 a.m. on Monday the 13th and nothing is scheduled yet. Your meetings are coming, we promise. And then as a quick review of some partnering best practices, again, include as much information as possible in your profile. And that's not just the description and brief description fields, but really consider the totality of all of the fields that are in the partnering system and what can you really highlight about your company, your assets, the drugs that you're currently working on for other companies. Make sure that you're starting to request your meetings early. If you haven't already done that, please log in as soon as possible. I'd recommend that you do it today. And customize both your subject lines and your meeting requests as much as possible. And remember that you can always follow up on meeting requests if they have not been answered. Now, just to drive home the point about logging in early, logging in frequently, checking back often, this says Bio 2019, and that's actually Bio 2018, schedule meetings by week. So scheduling began 3 weeks out, just as it will for this year. And as you can see, there were 8,000 additional meetings scheduled just in that first 3 or 4 days. So imagine all of the delegates on those meetings had some additional time slots that were booked up. So if as scheduling proceeds, you see that your open time slots have gotten booked, then you'll want to make sure that you go in and open more availability so that you can have more meetings. If your calendar is completely booked or completely red and unavailable, then the scheduler isn't able to put in any more meetings for you. All right, let's take a quick look at some recent partnering system updates. First, one new feature that we have recently introduced related to the pending reschedule meetings. Now, as a quick review, if you see a meeting that has a status of pending reschedule, it means that someone on either side of that meeting request has asked to have it rescheduled. It doesn't mean that it's canceled. The meeting will still appear as scheduled on your calendar. However, now in your message center, you'll be able to see whether or not those pending reschedule meetings have mutual availability. If they do, then they will be rescheduled by our team or by the auto-scheduler. And if you see that they do not have mutual availability, then you'll want to reach out to that other company to try to coordinate a time. Secondly is a new data archiving item that we've implemented. So conferences prior to July of 2017 have been archived to improve system speed. We have been thrilled to see such a great response and engagement in the partnering system since the advent of this version of it in 2015. And as you're acquiring all of those companies and delegates and meeting requests and breaking Guinness World Records, there's a lot of data. So to keep things moving along quickly, we have archived some of that prior data. However, anything from July 2017 and afterwards, you can still access in the partnering system by going to the upper right-hand corner and clicking Switch Conference if you'd like to view some past info. If you want to go to June 2017 or before, you can always email our team at biopartnering@bio.org, and we'll be happy to pull up any historical information for you. And finally, we made quite a few under-the-hood tweaks. We really did a significant overhaul, kind of on the infrastructure level, that will lead to speedier performance in general, shorter export downloads. I hope that you have already seen even faster and better performance out of the partnering system. We want to make sure that we can keep your experience as top-notch as possible. Now, on to the Partnering Power Toolkit. We're going to look at some of these tips and tricks, and we'll take this by each core section of the partnering system in turn, starting with the home page. And you'll have to forgive my puns, hammer down the home page. There are mechanical construction puns all throughout this webinar, but please bear with me. So first on the home page, if you're on this webinar, you're probably quite familiar. A couple of important reminders. The delegate profiles that you see over here in the left panel, it's important and really helpful that you include your headshot. We oftentimes hear of people looking for someone and they say that, if they could see the other participant's face, it would be easier to find them on site. Similarly, just like LinkedIn, you're far more likely to be noticed and be found if you've got a profile picture listed. It's something on the order of 14 times more likely to be found on LinkedIn if you've got a profile picture. Well, apply that same concept to the partnering system. Down here, if you see a colleague who's listed and it says that they have 0 time slots, it means that they've got no open availability on their calendar. Therefore, you won't be able to add them to a meeting. So you'll want to have that colleague go in and add some availability if they're going to be taking meetings. Here, with the More button, you can run your saved searches, and that's a tool that we're going to look at a little bit later. And sometimes people will go directly to the calendar to print, which is perfectly fine. But right from the home page, there's a nice Get Your Calendar button here. You can download and print your or your company's calendar in a variety of handy formats. Next, let's look at the menu when you click on your profile picture in the upper right-hand corner. Again, if you have a gray silhouette here, then that means you haven't put your headshot in, so please be sure to do that in Your Delegate Profile section. But here, there is a section for notification preferences, and this controls the email and calendar invitations that you will receive to your registered partnering email address. Note that you can also use the same menu to switch conferences if you want to go back to, for example, last year's International Convention in 2018. Now, within the notifications window, there's kind of a lot to cover here. As a reminder, by default, all notifications will go to every registered partnering delegate from your company. If you would like to change the types of meeting request emails that you're receiving, you can turn them all on or off here. This first switch is a kind of the master switch that controls all the rest of them to have them turn on or off, and then there are the individual sections here. Now, one thing that's really important to note, Microsoft in the last handful of months has recently released new and very strict spam settings for Outlook and Exchange servers. And what that means is that even lots of legitimate messages sometimes, perhaps even from your colleagues, could get sent into your spam filter because of these new settings. Obviously, your meeting notifications are important to you and they're important to us. So please add biopartnering at bio.org to your safe senders list. And if it seems that you're not getting your notifications, take a peek inside your spam folder, your junk mail folder, and make sure that they haven't landed there. You can usually right-click and select to not make that sender be marked as spam anymore to make sure that you are receiving all of your notifications. Another important item to note is that notifications carry over from conference to conference. Notification preferences do for your convenience. So let's say that you turned off some of your notifications for BIO 2018 or perhaps for the BIO 20 BIO Investor Forum in October. So just hop into your notification preferences and make sure that you've got everything turned on that you want to have on. The one probably most important setting is here. It says iCalendar Updates, ICS, and that is our Outlook push feature. So when meeting scheduling begins, your scheduled meetings are going to push right onto your Outlook calendar as long as you have this switched on. And this is a really, really helpful feature. So in addition to the BIO 101 partnering system and the partnering web app and paper printouts and all of these things, you can also have your meetings pushed right into your calendar. However, nota bene here is that if you leave this switched off and then turn it on, let's say the week that you get before you get to convention, it's not going to retroactively pull all of the past messages because those are no longer updates. So you want to leave this on the whole time. So I'd encourage you, if it's off, to turn that on today in preparation for scheduling beginning on May 13th. All right, now let's look at the company profile. If you're on this advanced webinar, you have probably already done a great job of filling out your company type and description and some of these other core fields here. But there are a couple of other things that we want to point out. First is make sure that you upload your company logo, not your delegate headshot. Occasionally folks will put their face in here, but you're going to want your company logo in here. So make sure that you upload your company logo. Again, enhances your visibility, makes it easier to identify your company and your branding. If you have new drug assets, for example, you'll want to add those in here or update information that you may have had from the past. And speaking of the past, it's always a best practice to log into the partnering system and read over your company profile. Give it a quick once-over because BIO imports past profiles for you. So make sure that you have updated your profile with any new information and taken off any older information as well. Now, if you scroll down in the panel here, you'll see a content section. And this is a really great area. There are tons of different things that you can upload, and it all makes you more searchable. If you want to add your pitch deck, your one-pagers, you can attach publications. You can even embed YouTube videos if your company has been listing videos on your YouTube channel. The one thing to note here is that anything that appears on your content section, like all the rest of the information in your company profile, is publicly visible to anyone in the partnering system. So be sure not to upload any confidential info here. All right, next, let's take a look at the search section. First is, everyone is probably familiar with sort of the big five. So these tabs, not only can you search through all the companies participating in partnering, but also through the delegates, assets, market products, and services that are available to search. So make sure that you take full advantage of all of the tabs here. I alluded earlier to the ability to run a saved search. So if you've saved some searches, we'll look more at that in a second, and then you can access those from here. The advanced search button, please take advantage of the advanced search button. There are a host of really powerful filters and tools that'll save you a lot of time, frankly. A lot of, some people that we talk to, they spend a lot of time, they'll enter, oncology and then search through a list of hundreds of companies. But there's a lot more that you can do to save your time and narrow and target those searches to make it a more efficient process. We also have a starts with filter over here in case you are searching for something or a person that begins with a particular letter. And then there's also the make a note feature. So that allows you to have secure discussions within your company. Those notes are not visible to the other company or to anyone else, only to you and your colleagues within your same company profile. Now, let's talk about how you save searches. So let's say that I have entered immuno-oncology, that's what I want to search for, and then I went to my handy advanced search here and narrowed it down to biotech, pharma, therapeutic companies that are located in North America. So I've entered in all of that, I've got my search results here, and perhaps this is a group that I'm looking for regularly, IO companies from North America. So as opposed to typing this all in and clicking it every time, let's say every few days or every week when I log into Bio One-on-One, you can just click Save Search as New here and save it for quick reference. You can give it a name, North America, IO, something like that, to make it easy for you to run those searches very quickly in the future, either from the search section or also, as mentioned earlier, from the home page. Now, one commonly requested feature is the ability to search for only new companies who have registered since a particular time. This feature has actually existed since 2015, but sometimes it's commonly overlooked. So if you click on Advanced Search, there's a company registration date area in here. And here, you can say, for example, okay, the last 2 days, who's registered in the last month, or you can set a custom range of dates. Let's say that you log in every Wednesday or something like that. So take advantage of this field. It'll save you a lot of time from reviewing companies that you have already reviewed to make sure that you're reviewing the newest, latest, and greatest, and the folks that have just registered for convention most recently. Now, a little bit more on the advanced search. Couple of other pro tips here. When you're doing searches, make sure that you want to save your searches that have acronyms. So CAR-T, with or without a hyphen, adding the word cell at the end, those may produce some new companies that you wouldn't necessarily get if you just typed in CAR-T. So think about using the full written out version of different indication names, for example. That will really help ensure that you are capturing everything. If you search for CNS, you might also type central nervous system diseases, for instance. In the advanced search, also remember, you can combine all of these different tabs. You can combine searches across the tabs. So you might select a biotech or pharma company type here, and you may say companies that are looking for in-licensing opportunities, and then go over to the assets tab and specify that they have preclinical assets or something like that. So you will see all of the tabs add up, and then you can run that search. So don't feel like you need to remain isolated only within a single tab. And when you're looking at the primary and secondary therapeutic area sections of the partnering system, our ontology, so this entire tree and structure here is courtesy of our friends at Clarivate Analytics through the Cortellis Competitive Intelligence Project. So thank you so much for that product and for this ontology that helps make it easier to drill down to very, very specific indications. And if you start clicking the plus signs here, you'll see that these go many, 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 many levels deep to help you identify the appropriate indications in therapeutic areas that your company is working in. You can also search for investors at the convention as well. Of course, we always recommend that depending on your type of company, you attend the Bio CEO and Investor Conference in February if you are maybe a later stage or public company, and the Bio Investor Forum in San Francisco if you're earlier stage. But you can use the investor fields here for searching for investor type, company types, investment stages that investors are looking for. So these are more great tools for you to take advantage of. And on the calendar, a couple of quick things. Of course, you can always select a track over here on the right side to view all of the great programming that's happening during Bio 2019 and add it to your calendar. And there is a quick print option here. Quick note, if you Control P on the keyboard like you might do if you were in Microsoft Word, for example, that's not going to give you the printed schedule that you want. It's going to try to print this entire web page and it won't look very clean or readable. So make sure that you are using the print button here and choosing either your individual or company calendar, not the Control P that you may be used to. And just another reminder, make sure that you're regularly logging in and updating your availability. Keep in mind that every one of these time slots that is marked as available is a possible meeting. And every time slot that is red is a time that you can't have a meeting. So just keep in mind that the scheduler is looking at it the same way as you see on screen. Now, a few pro tips for the calendar based on some feedback that we've been collecting. Keep in mind that the most accurate and up-to-date version of your partnering schedule is always going to be in the Bio 101 partnering system, as well as our mobile app. So we recommend that you download the mobile app. You can download it now or when you get closer to convention. It is free in both the Google Play and Apple stores. Or you can also print your latest schedule regularly. However, warning, warning, warning. We see this fairly regularly. Printing your partnering schedule the day of your flight and using it all week on site is not advisable. There's a good chance you're going to have one or more meetings that will be rescheduled or canceled. Something will probably at some point change. So if you're using a week and a half old calendar, you are using out-of-date information and you might miss a meeting. Schedules change, reschedules happen, cancellations pop up, flights change, these sorts of things. So we are always happy to print a paper version at the partnering desk of your schedule for you. If you're a paper person, again, you can use your the Outlook push feature or the Bio 101 partnering mobile app as well. There are loads of ways to get your schedule. Another quick note, sometimes people will walk up to the partnering desk and they show us what looks like a schedule that's been printed in Microsoft Word. Someone wrote it up, but they say that their meeting location doesn't exist, and what am I going to do? Well, that's because the person who prepared the schedule may have left off some numbers or letters on the meeting location or prepared it quite early before a meeting was rescheduled. Paper gets outdated quickly. The partnering system and the partnering app don't. So again, we encourage you to take advantage of the multiple ways that we have of accessing your latest and greatest schedule. All right, next, let's take a look at how to mechanize your message center. First here, you'll keep in mind that we've got the great advanced filters, so you can do even more inside the advanced filter section here, as well as filter your meeting requests by status. And then you can also, at the top here, this is sometimes overlooked, you can use tags to segment your meeting request by a variety of different things. Let's say here I may want to tag my colleague Mackenzie so that when she logs in, she'll see it. So I can begin typing her name here and that will appear. Some other companies may tag meeting requests by therapeutic area or by specific indication. They may tag a particular team or whether or not a meeting is confidential. So there are lots of things that you can do here. And this is a verbal recap of all of the things that I just said. Quick reminder here. If you write in your message center on a meeting request that you are available, let's say at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, but then in your partnering calendar, you have 1 p.m. on Wednesday marked as red, as unavailable, then for all intents and purposes to our auto scheduler, you are not available at 1 p.m. in the system. So please make sure to update your calendar to make it reflect your actual availability. Takes about 10 or 15 seconds. It's very quick, but that's a really critical step to make sure that you can get your meeting scheduled when you want to. Also, if you're having a discussion with another company using the reply only feature, and let's say you discuss an agreed time, we're going to meet at 10:30 on Tuesday, then be sure that your calendar reflects that. And if you update your calendar and then the little red icon for no mutual availability goes away, it means that there's been calendar overlap. So that meeting will get swept into the auto scheduler to be scheduled. Now, on pending reschedule status meetings, again, that means that someone has requested that a meeting be rescheduled. Here are a couple of helpful tips. First, you can always click the request reschedule button here, and then our team and or the auto scheduler will take those into account. If you get a message in your message center saying that from a bio staff saying that a meeting cannot be rescheduled, step one is open your calendar as much as possible. If you've done that every single time slots open that you can, step two is use the reply only button to try to find another time to meet with that company. And then step three, if you definitely can't make the meeting, please cancel it here in the system and leave your contact information. Otherwise, it will still show up as scheduled on that other delegate's calendar. And then when you don't show up and they do, then that's never a great impression. No one wants to show up to an empty meeting booth. But you can always write back and forth at any time to arrange a time to meet, for example, during lunch, for example, or at an evening reception, something like that. You can always share your contact information this way. One very important step when you're requesting a meeting reschedule. We saw some cases last time where people would request to have a meeting rescheduled as many as 8 times, but they never said when they wanted it to be rescheduled for. What that means is our team is looking, or the auto scheduler is looking and trying to put you in a different slot. But if you were originally on Monday at 11 and you have a variety of other slots that we can choose, we'll choose something different. But if you really want to be on Wednesday at 12, then we need you to say that. Just drop a quick note in that box that appears when you click Request Reschedule to present any preferences that you may have. We can't read your mind. We're working on that. Don't have it ready yet. So in the meantime, please let us know when you would like to have those meetings rescheduled. And to the best of the ability of overlapping mutual availability, we will try to accommodate. Now, this is a quick review of the floor plan at the Philadelphia Convention Center for BIO 2019. Couple of quick areas here, especially relevant for partnering. Downstairs on level 100 is Hall F, which is the core business forum. So most of your meetings are probably going to be taking place in Hall F. Our great academic campus is also down here as well. So again, that's on level 100 on the first level. Upstairs on level 200, the orange square here is the Bio Business Forum sponsor square. So if you're meeting with one of our sponsor companies, that will most likely be taking place up there. And meeting points are up there as well. And we're going to go over meeting points in more detail in just a moment. And then here, as you see the areas to say halls A through E, that is the exhibit hall. So the exhibitors that are participating in exhibitor booth partnering, if you have a meeting that says EX on your calendar, then that means you're going to be going to the appropriate booth here. Speaking of what appears on your meeting calendar, this is a quick overview of what you're really looking for if you see a particular thing on your partnering schedule. So, Case 1, your schedule says level 100-BF, that means business forum, and then a booth number. That means you're on the first floor, and you're going to be going you're going to be going to a general partnering booth actually here. If you're level 200 BF and a booth number, that's going to be the second floor and a sponsor booth, so those right there are switched. If it's level 200 BF and a meeting point, that's the second floor at a meeting point. A meeting point is not a general term, but it means the tables and chairs that are available, more open meeting spaces for some more casual meetings. And then if you are level 200-EX, that is going to be the exhibit hall, and that's on the second floor. All right, we have managed to cover all of this information in exactly 30 minutes, and now is a great time for questions. So if you have any questions about partnering or your experience about 2019, please submit those in the questions panel in your GoToWebinar, and we'll take those momentarily. All right, we've got quite a few questions rolling in, so we'll try to hit as many of them as possible. Can you repeat the email address that the email notifications will be coming from more slowly? Sure thing. So the email is biopartnering@bio.org. So your login credentials come from that email as well as your email notifications. Ontology description, can I keep it at a high level, for example, cardiovascular? Absolutely. So when you click into the primary or secondary therapeutic area box, if you want to keep it at a very high level, you can just choose kind of one of those parent levels. So we'll actually go Yes, so you could just choose, for example, dermatological disease, immune disorder. If you want to go more specific, then you can also do that, but you can keep it as specific or as high level as you like. If we are exhibiting, is it possible that we will have partnering meetings scheduled in our own booth? Great question. Yes, if you are participating in exhibitor booth partnering, which is a included courtesy if you're exhibiting, then your partnering meetings will either take place in your own exhibit booth or in the booth of another exhibitor. If you are an exhibitor and you're meeting with someone who is a business forum participant, then the business forum person is going to leave the business forum area and come meet with you at your exhibit booth. Is iCal compatible with other calendar apps like Google Calendar or just Outlook? Fantastic question. So whatever your default calendar application is on your computer, when those meetings get pushed, it will get pushed into that, generally speaking. But yes, so if you download the ICS file, for example, from your calendar, you can put it in Google Calendar, you can put it in Outlook, or most any standard calendaring application. Hi, I have accepted meeting requests in the system. Now what? How do I schedule them? Great question. So you don't actually have to schedule them. Just go into your calendar, make sure that you've marked as much calendar availability as possible. Starting on the evening of May 13th, Bio will schedule your meetings automatically for you. With 6,000 to 7,000 partnering participants, as we often have at convention, if not more, participating in partnering, if you had to go with all of the different companies and try to individually identify the time slot, it'd be terrible. You end up missing meetings because that's a complicated process. So our automated algorithm does it for you. Do any of the one-on-one meetings happen in our exhibit booth, or do we have to go to designated areas? So again, they'll either take place in your exhibit booth if you're an exhibitor or the booth of another exhibitor. Can I search for someone by name as opposed to searching for their company? Certainly. So if you go to the search section here, just click on the Delegates tab, and then you can search for people by name, by job title, background, etc. I am an exhibitor within a pavilion and don't yet have my partnering pass. Am I at a disadvantage since I can't log in to start requesting meetings yet? Well, certainly we recommend that you get in as soon as possible. I would get in touch with your pavilion organizer and inquire about that so that you can log into the system just as soon as possible. Let's see here. If you have multiple delegates in your company, does the scheduler see all of them, or do you have to choose who would be going to that meeting? Great question. So when you go to send a meeting request to another company, the system is going to have you specify which participants from your company that you would like to join the meeting. That could just be you. It could be just another colleague, or it could be a variety of different people from your company. So yes, the scheduler will see everyone that you have listed as a participant, but it will not automatically drop everyone from your company onto every single meeting request. So that's completely within your control. How can I see who the delegates are for a company? So when you're searching, just click on a company profile's name, and then it'll slide out here on the right side. At the bottom section, it will show the names of all of the participating partnering delegates. And yes, Emmanuel, on the note of the last table, indeed, level 100 BF is for a general partnering booth, and level 200 BF on your partnering calendar means that you are meeting with a sponsoring company. So we'll have that updated in the presentation before it is sent out. In order to request an addressee of the meeting request sent, do you just hit the reply only button, or do you have to write it, include text as well? So if you're sending a meeting request to another company, when you first send it, you can always use the names of the delegates in that company to specify someone individual that you're interested to meeting with. But just keep in mind that ultimately that other company is going to choose the most appropriate party or parties to meet with you. And then the same applies if you go to use the reply only button. You can always say, dear Bob, dear Mary, and address someone in particular, or you can just reply to the company overall. What is the average number of meetings scheduled per delegate? So, Richard, this is a good question. It varies tremendously by sometimes by type of company, whether you're a business forum or your exhibitor. So we really advise that it depends all on kind of what you're doing. If your company is maximizing your opportunities, we do have delegates every year who use every single partnering time slot. If you're in business forum, there are 76 of them. If you're an exhibitor, there are 43 of them. So Divide that in half and you've got the number of hours that you're available to partner. So it's possible to do that in some cases. Most folks don't quite get to 70 plus meetings as an individual person, which is quite okay. And the average will usually end up somewhere closer to 10 to 20. How do you remove a delegate from your company? For example, they're no longer with the company. So if you need to remove a partnering delegate, let's say someone has left your organization, please email convention@bio.org. That's convention@bio.org to process a cancellation or a substitution for that person. What is the usual time lapse one could consider as comfortable not to have an accept or reject response? So I think what is asked here is how long does it take before you need to kind of follow up with another company? We would usually, if you're starting around this time, so if you're starting about a month out from convention, we would recommend giving it a week to 2 weeks as people are logging in on different schedules. And then after partnering scheduling meeting begins on May 13th, then things will happen more regularly. What is the difference on the company profile between assets and services? Great question. So there's a couple of different areas here. Assets, quite frequently this refers to drug assets. It can be biologics. It can be, in many cases, small molecules, which are the largest area here. Vaccines, cell therapy, gene therapy. There's a really large variety of things that you can include, medical devices. Services can really be lots of different things. So if you are a company that, for example, creates diagnostic devices or a whole host of other sorts of items, you can include those in services. And there are also a lot of great filters as well inside of market products. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to shoot those over to biopartneringabout.org and we'll be happy to take a look with you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's Partnering Advanced webinar. We hope that you got some great information. As an FYI, we have a webinar coming up next week with Clarivate Analytics on oncology investment and partnering trends. We're excited about that. So that's on Thursday, May 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Similar to this one, that recording will be made available via email afterwards, so you can always RSVP even if you're not able to attend. Thank you so much for attending this webinar, and we look forward to seeing you in Philadelphia.